good afternoon to you. I'm Ann Trujillo.
And I'm Marshall Zelinger. Welcome to Politics Unplugged. Donald Trump finally gave his immigration speech that was supposed to happen a week and a half ago in Denver. A speech that seemed to show he has not softened his immigration stance.
On day one, we will begin working on an impenetrable, physical, tall, powerful, beautiful southern border wall.
He also went across the border and met with Mexico's president, who afterwards tweeted that Mexico will not pay for the wall Trump keeps promising.
The Republican candidate responded with a tweet of his own that Mexico will pay for the wall. Well, Mexico's president responding directly to that tweet in Spanish and the English translation, he said, "I repeat what I personally said to Mr. Trump, Mexico will never pay for the wall." Well, joining us today to talk about these developments are Juan Gallegos with the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition, and we also have Jorge Castaneda, an immigration attorney. We asked a representative from the Trump campaign to join us for this conversation. They were not available this week, so we do hope to have them with us soon.
Juan, I actually want to start with you in your personal story. I was reading through your bio, and in 2010 you had an interview where you came out as undocumented, and I know things have changed since then. But when we hear this number of 11 million immigrants that will be deported, can you relate that to your story?
Yeah, definitely. You know, we have a lot of mixed status families in the Latino community and also in the new immigrant community, and so we can get up to 11 million of us that are here now because of President Obama's Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals that was enacted in 2012. I'm able to stay here without a worry of deportation for 2 years at a time. Now, there's a lot of other people that never qualified for that, and we're talking about millions of them. And so, millions of us, I would say, because I'm part of the community, but I was actually able to qualify for that. And that are at risk of deportation every single day. And so those families also have U.S. citizens that can vote this election. And so as a community for the Latinos, immigration reform is one of the biggest topics, especially at the federal level, that needs to be addressed. And so when they go out and vote, they remember that. They remember that immigration is on their top list, especially at the federal level, because you know, there's a lot of other things, like, for example, education, that are really important, and the economy, and all of those things. But when we talk at the federal level and things that should be addressed at the federal level, we always hear immigration reform as the number one issue.
We also talk a lot about that 11 million figure. Is that accurate? I mean, Donald Trump seemed to indicate no one really seems to know.
I think in all of his statements, that might be one that is actually correct and true. I think it's very hard to estimate the number of undocumented people. I'm not exactly sure where he got the 11 million people number, but I wouldn't put credence in it. I think it's hard to know exactly how many undocumented people are in the country.
When I hear your story, Juan, since the DREAM Act helped you, what was life like before that? Were you concerned like you were just walking to the store and suddenly you may be locked up?
So the DREAM Act never actually passed. What we did get is kind of like a similar kind of like concession from the president after all the activism that we did, after all the promises he made during his campaign. He finally said, you know what, let's do something especially for the youth, because they came here when they were so young. They didn't really have a choice whether they wanted to be here or not. So here we are. What do we do with us? I mean, I was going to school. I finished my college education, and I still was at risk of deportation every day, and I still couldn't get a job where I would feel comfortable using my degree because I didn't have the right documentation to do it. So the only job I found was pretty much working as a private contractor building irrigation pipes. And so here I am with a college degree, sitting on top of a irrigation pipe, moving the wrench and thinking, I have a college degree. Why am I not allowed to participate fully in this society? And so that's the thing that we always look at when we look at policy, is like, how does it affect people? And you know, it can be 11 million, maybe it's a lot less now because the immigration from Mexico and from south of the border is nearly zero. Like, most of the immigration now is coming from other places and in other ways, probably with like different status, such as like students or visitor status, but not the same number that we used to see. So instead, more people are leaving, which means we don't really know what that number is, but it is estimated that it's around somewhere around there.
And does either one of you see the other side of the debate, where there are some people in this country who say we have to get control of our borders? And in Donald Trump's case, as you know, send everyone back. But can you see that side of border control?
As someone who works within that system, I will say that I think the the immigration system has been broken for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I will say that. I think there needs to be some form of immigration reform. I don't think it's the type of policy that's announced where they threaten millions of people with deportation, people who have been here since they were children, people that have not committed crimes, people that live in fear simply because they were brought here as children. They had no choice in that. But I will say that I think the immigration system is broken in a lot of ways. I don't think the solution is these grandiose plans that are announced by politicians where they're going to build a wall and it's going to be a beautiful wall and all these things. I think there needs to be a sensible form of immigration reform, and a form of immigration reform that will benefit people who came here as children, who live here within the law, who have worked here, studied here, have assimilated to this culture more than a lot of the other people, and want to contribute to society, and they do, but they have to do it in the shadows, essentially.
Well, we heard some very specific points from Donald Trump when he finally gave that immigration speech, and it kind of goes 180 to what you were just talking about, Jorge. Here's one thing that he said in Phoenix last Wednesday.
We are going to triple the number of ICE deportation officers. Within ICE, I am going to create a new special deportation task force focused on identifying and quickly removing the most dangerous criminal illegal immigrants in America who have evaded justice, just like Hillary Clinton has evaded justice, okay?
I want to pull one specific part out of what he just said, quickly removing the dangerous criminal illegal immigrants in America. Is there anyone that says, I know he's referenced 2 million gang members, drug lords, if that's accurate, does anybody disagree that those people shouldn't be here?
Not that I'm aware of, no. I mean, I think your point is one that I've actually made many times. I think most of us who are reasonable people agree that if someone is in the country illegally and they commit particularly serious crimes, that perhaps they should be deported from the country. The issue becomes is, where do you draw the line what a serious crime is? I mean, there's certain things that everybody agrees on, murder, rape, things of that nature. What about somebody who is shoplifting out of necessity or something like that? So this idea to kind of paint everyone with a broad brush is the problem. You can't do that. Everybody's situation is different. Every individual's background is different. Everybody's family situation is different. And to say we're just going to pick everybody up with a special force, which sounds a lot, unfortunately, like a Gestapo, like it's something like that, a special force within immigration that's just going to round up people, is kind of insulting and I think dangerous to even mention.
And I know that with your organization, the Immigrant Rights Coalition, one of your missions is to enlighten people about the realities of immigration. What is it that maybe you would like to say to people that they don't understand about your situation or about immigrants in this country?
Yes, definitely. Well, we're a nonpartisan organization, so I can't really talk about like one stance or another, but I just gotta say that, you know, like, we're talking about families here. We're talking about, like, you know, we've seen it back in 2006 where children were in school and like their parents never came back to pick them up because ICE came into their workplace and raided everyone, took people into detention to figure out if they were deportable or not, whether they were U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents or were here undocumented. It didn't matter. They just took the people and they had to verify somehow that they were here with status in the U.S. And all those children were left in schools. The school had to be open late in some of our towns. I think this happened here in I believe in Fort Collins and in Greeley. Where I grew up in Nebraska, it happened in Grand Island, where like the schools had to be open late because nobody was able to pick up those children from school. That's the reality we live in. We can't have a blanket policy to say everybody needs to be deported who's here undocumented, because in reality, it's people who work every day really hard to put food on the table, to get their families to get better, for, you know, like in the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, it says, give me your meek, you're poor, you're tired, yearning to breathe free. This is who we're talking about. The only problem is we didn't have a choice. We didn't have a way to apply for lawful status like other people do. Some people have maybe enough resources where they can apply for something when they have either money, connections, or had family members who were already U.S. citizens. A lot of us didn't have that. All we had is a hunger for freedom and for food, and all we had is, like, some of us were lucky enough to have visitors visas to cross the border. Others didn't have that, and a lot of them perished at the border. And it's really unjust what's happening. Everyone should have at least a way to, like, apply for something and then decide if it's right or not. But the way the immigration system
Well, and
works
as
is
Jorge has pointed out,
awful.
in some of those cases, we're talking about a 15-year wait as well. So,
It is not easy to immigrate into the United States from Mexico. It is not an easy process.
A topic that will continue to last throughout the election cycle. Jorge, Juan, thanks for joining us.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.
we'll be right back.